Welcome, and today's call is all about whether this is my last live YouTube event or not. Stay tuned to find out what the heck I've got up my sleeve. So last week I got a couple of really interesting comments from two of my lovely subscribers, and it really got me thinking and it really challenged me. One of them was from Vlogi. Let me see if I can share that with you guys. And he's talked about his prediction of that if I continue these long live events, I might get to burnout, or my audience might not be able to afford such long events. And also a comment from Tino, which I'm really grateful for both his comments, talking about whether I should run every single video as a live event. Maybe I should make them a bit more exclusive. Well, it really got me thinking, and even thinking some more. And last week I had another video that where I addressed these things. And to be honest, lately, especially in the last week, ever since I had that video on my results for my first month worth of experiments, I've actually been, to be honest, hand on my heart, it's been difficult for me to come up with ideas for new content. Shock horror, okay? On the one side. On the other side, I don't have any shortage of ideas for content. Now that's one thing. The other thing is, if you remember what I talked about last week, I said that I'm going to keep on doing these live events as long as they're fun. And so last week, I wasn't sure about it, but I've been thinking about it, and there have been some elements of it that has become not so much fun for me anymore. So the question then is, if it's not as fun for me to do anymore, should I really continue doing these live events? So that really got me thinking. And so those two things, coming up with new content ideas, the burnout thing, whether my audience would like it, and all these things sort of playing together in my mind, and got me thinking. And it reminded me of something else that I learned last year, something incredibly useful that I promised myself that I have to pay attention to. And it is from a couple of other really amazing people. They are Tim and Kris Halbom. They've got a program called WealthyMind, and they came up with this little cycle thing, a cycle of things that happen in the creative process, things that happen in life, things that happen throughout everything in nature. And it reminded me of that, all this thinking and discussion, these comments, and I was asking myself the question, where am I at? Where am I at with these live events? Am I actually at a point where I should give up and stop because there's been some elements of it that hasn't been as fun anymore? Or should I be looking at it from a different perspective? Now, before I share with you the final answer whether I should continue or not, by the way, give us a thumbs up if you think I should continue, so I know from you at least. But I'll be revealing that answer to you in a second. So before I do, though, let me share with you this wonderful picture from Tim and Kris Halbom, and I will link to their program below in the comments area after I've done this video. So they shared this amazing cycle picture here in their training, and it was incredibly useful. So I'm just going to quickly go through it because it represents all the different cycles of life. You see these cycles everywhere. I'm going to put my twist on it as well, of the way that I'm seeing where I'm at in terms of these live events. But it's also going to be incredibly useful for you whenever you're doing a new creative process or project, for you to be aware of these different stages. Because if you're not, you could get to a point where you just give up on something prematurely. And sometimes you could be missing out on something incredible. So I want to share with you why or why not you should or should not give up or continue with something. All right, cool. So it all starts, basically everything starts with creation. There's some sort of creative impulse that happens either in our minds or in nature somewhere, and that's where the whole thing starts. And it goes in this sort of a clockwise direction. The next phase after creation is growth. So imagine like this is like a little baby, right? There's creation and then growth. The baby starts growing. And then from there, there's complexity to maturity. This is perhaps where the little baby becomes a teenager and some sort of turbulence starts happening. And then from turbulence, we move to chaos. This is chaos in life. And then that baby becomes an adult, more of an adult, sort of just maybe at around 18, 20 years old of age. And there's some droppings off. This droppings off thing is incredible that I learned from Tim and Kris. It's an incredible part of the cycle that I used to totally miss out on, and I'll explain that in a few more seconds later. And so that's droppings off. This is perhaps where the child drops off their childish ways and becomes an adult. And perhaps then there's sort of a meditative or dormancy kind of stage before they fully become into their own being and then move right into the creative phase again, where they become a new adult, so to speak. And so the cycle just keeps on going and going. And, the first time I saw this, it actually came at a really important stage in one of my businesses, where I got to the stage of the business was actually at this stage here. We were at chaos. And, I didn't realize that we were at chaos. And basically what happened was, this chaos stage is the hardest part. And when you get to this stage, a lot of people just end up giving up and going and doing something completely different. Nothing particularly wrong with that. But what happens is that a lot of people get to this chaos stage, and I've done this many times before, and instead of going through these last two cycles in the process, they jump straight back to creation with a brand new creative project. And it goes on to a completely new circle of creation. And as I said, there's nothing particularly wrong with that. But I think there could be a better way, especially if you're in the long run and you want to create something really great. So as I was thinking about this over the weekend, it struck me that for these live events that I'm doing now, it's kind of been like this. I've started off, in that first month. I said, okay, this is going to be a creative thing, right? A brand new creative thing. So I started off creating, and all sorts of new concepts and ideas came to me. It was just incredible in terms of the creative energy that I was getting. And I was spurred on by my audience. It started growing ever so slightly. And it started getting, I guess, in terms of the content at least that I was doing, to a complexity or maturity kind of a stage. And very quickly, and I would say sort of last week, it all sort of these two stages, the turbulent stage and the chaotic stage, all sort of started happening at once. And I think it was brought upon by, or at least initiated by perhaps these two comments that really got me thinking. Sort of put me in this sort of turbulence mode. Why am I doing this? Is this still fun? Should I be doing it? Should I be doing it every day? So what happened is now, considering this diagram, I'm kind of here now at this chaotic stage. So chaotic in sort of inverted commas. So not so much in terms of what you guys are seeing on the outside, but more as an internal thing. Internally, there's a bit of chaos here in my mind in terms of thinking, what should be the structure of these live events? Should I be doing it every day still? What should be the content? What should be the format? Should it just be me? So at the moment, I've gone through all these stages, this creative stages, the growth stages, the maturity stages already, for this first go at these live events. And now I'm at that stage where I've got a lot of question marks in my mind. And to prevent me from getting to the next stage of what I've had so many times in the past, where I'd burn out in a way, I would burn out in many cases, and I would completely give up on it. What I've learned in one of my businesses of V-Roll, this happened last year with V-Roll, when I got to that stage, instead of giving up, I did something different to what I would normally do. And this has made all the difference. Trust me on this. So instead, in the past of me jumping straight from chaos, where it's the most painful process, and jumping straight to chaos, to creation again, onto a brand new project, a brand new business, and losing all that momentum, I decided to move on to the next stage, which is the droppings off stage. And then naturally, there was a meditative or dormancy stage, a rest stage. This could also be described as rest. And what's important to realize about these things is that for you to have a complete and healthy cycle, you need to go through all of these stages. And sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult. The chaotic stage that we had in one of my businesses last year was very difficult. But I decided to this time through, or the way that events worked, I ended up pushing through that difficult stage. Through to droppings off, things changed in the business, so things dropped off. Some activities, some things we were doing, we'd stopped doing some things. And then we went through just naturally a dormancy, rest phase. And then actually for the whole part of this year, a bit of last year as well, we've been in a massive creative phase for that business. And it's been absolutely fun. I'm so glad we pushed through. But now with the live events, I'm here now. I'm at the chaotic phase. And full credit, I think, goes to Tino and Vlogi for maybe picking up on that energy already before I could. Full credit. But now, because I have this picture in mind, because I know which stage I'm at in this whole cycle, I'm at the chaotic stage, I now have the choice. I can now decide to either change things and drop some things off. So this just basically means there's got to be some sort of a change. Some sort of a change here in some way. Or I could decide to completely stop what I'm doing and jump straight to my new creative project. So what I've decided is to not drop the live events, at least not completely, but I'm going to make some changes. So there's the answer for you. I will continue them, but there's going to be some changes. So while I'm making these changes, I'm actually going to move into a meditative or dormancy state, but not for very long, a rest phase. And here's what I realized. I never used to do this. For you to stay creative, or for you to be able to go into the next creative cycle, you have to go through the rest process, the rest meditative dormancy process. You have to, because that your creativity demands that of you. Okay, so and I'm doing this not because I have to, but because I'm deciding to. Because I am going with the flow now. I'm going with what I've learned from this graph here, or from this diagram, is that if I don't do this, then I will get to some sort of a burnout point, and I probably will forever stop doing YouTube live events. And I don't want that. I want to continue this. So I'm gonna basically for this week decide to actually take a little bit of a break. And it makes sense for me to do this as well, because the first month has really been an experiment. And what I need to do now is go back, take a bit of a rest, look at the results that I've had, and reassess how I run these live events going forward. And for that, I have to take a break. I have to take a break for the creative process to get prepared for the next creative cycle in the process again. So the way it's going to look, and the way I think for you to look at it as well, for anything creative that you do, looks like this. So this is from looking at a two-dimensional point of view. But if we were to look at it from a three-dimensional point of view, I've just turned my iPad off, sorry. That's my beautiful little girl. Okay. For us to look at it from a three-dimensional point of view, it looks like this. So imagine we're looking at that creative process, that cycle now from the side. And it kind of looks, actually I should go the other way. It kind of looks like this. No, let me do the other way. It kind of looks like this. So I've just gone through the first cycle of my project, the first creative cycle. But now what's happening is there's a new cycle beginning and starting to look like this. So every time, so I'm doing the full drawing here now so you can see. So it's actually a spiral of creativity. It's not just a two-dimensional thing. So previously we had there, if we zoom in here, there was creation, there was growth, creation, growth, turbulence, and maturity. Then I think it was chaos, and then droppings off, and rest, whatever, etc. And it keeps on going, and now it goes on to the next cycle. So, and this is what I realized with the previous business as well. All that's happening is that you're just getting ready for the next creative cycle. So don't give up. That's my message to you for anything creative that you're doing. Don't give up yet. Realize the stage that you're in the creative process, and that if it's at that chaotic stage, you might have to make some changes. You might have to let some things go to make room for new things to come in. And you will very likely will need some sort of a break, some sort of a meditative break where you can sit back and reassess the whole picture, reassess the spiral that you're on. It's not just a circle, it's actually a spiral that continues. And the idea is that it gets bigger and grander the further you go. But if you quit, I'm going to make the quit circle here in red. Say you get to the chaotic stage and you decide, oh, it's too hard now, I'm going to quit. Basically, all that happens is you're starting from rock bottom again, and you're starting a new spiral from rock bottom again. Whereas if you keep going, you actually enter into the new cycle, which allows you to go higher and higher and higher. So I want to thank Velogi and Tino for coming up with those comments. That actually was for me, I realize this now, the instigators for me to realize where I'm at in terms of the creative process. And it is my duty now, because I know this information, to actually go with the flow of nature. Because if I go against the flow of nature, that's when things go against your way. So I have to. So I've come to that realization. I have to make some changes now. So probably what that's going to be is going to be changes in the way that the format these live events are going to run. I might change the lengths of them. I might change the kind of content that I have. I might change the kind of people that I have on here. I might even change my whole set set design for these live events. All I know is that I've got to make some changes, and or I've got to start getting rid of some things and making room for more things, other things to come in, and I've got to take a bit of a break. So this week, being Easter week coming up as well, I thought, why not? It's kind of uncanny how these things are happening together at the same time. So this week, I'm actually going to take a break. So this is my last live event, not ever, but just for this week. And the plan is that I get back into it again sometime after Easter. Once I've had enough of this restoration period or meditative period for me to know what the next step in the next iteration, the next part of the cyclone, what do you call it, the spiral, the higher level of the spiral, before I move on to the next level. So I wanted to share that with you, and this is once again me just being raw and real here. This is where things are at. I told you at the beginning that this is going to be a big experiment, and I've invited you to be on my journey with me. So far so good. I am still enjoying this journey, and I also realize that the journey has ups and downs, and I'm realizing the stage that I'm in. And because now that I have the wisdom of all my previous projects that I've done over the last 10 years, and this wonderful diagram here from these lovely people, Tim and Kris Halbom. Sorry, I'm not sharing this with you. There we go. This diagram. Because of this, I know now where I am, and I know now where I need to going for the future. So what I can say is, guys, thank you for joining me so far on this journey. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of amazing stuff still coming up, but I'll be continuing this conversation in about a week's time from now, or a little bit later, depending on how long it takes for me to get the new vision, the new creative vision for these live events. So make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, because there's probably going to be a lot of cool stuff coming up that I think you will love seeing and love experiencing on this channel, and I'd hate for you to miss out on that. So I'm going to jump over now to the live Q&A. If you're not watching this live, make sure you subscribe, because whenever I run these live events, this is the bit of extra benefit I give to live viewers. So I'm going to jump into the live Q&A now, and looking forward to chatting to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.